Hey, everybody. I see folks about to pile in. We're going to get this party started. Hey, guys, come on in. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Long time no see. We have a good amount of registrants for this webinar, so I'm super excited. Welcome to Creative Deals 101, which is a super group for South Atlanta RIA. My name is Deanna Britt. I'm the owner of Law Clerk on Demand. We're going to be getting started in about 5 minutes. We're just going to give everybody a chance to come on, okay? So you guys go ahead and get in, get your notepad, all that good stuff. Can you guys confirm that you can hear me okay in the chat? Confirm that you can hear me okay in the chat. Let's see, can you give me, I see Chris is on. I'm gonna mute you for a second, Chris, just so I can introduce you. Hold on 1 second. But okay, guys, so okay, I see a yes in the chat. Cool. All right, we have an awesome special guest coming on today that is going to give you a ton of value, a ton of information. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for confirming that you can hear me okay. My heart keeps spinning around. But I'm super excited to present this information to you guys. I absolutely love this meeting for so many reasons. One, I love talking to you guys. And two, I love the fact that we are getting more options and solutions for sellers that we talk to, okay? So we're still gonna give it some time, give people a chance to get on here because I don't want anybody to miss any information. Can you guys check in and tell me where you're from? Where are you watching from? What state? Hey, Chris, I see you. I'm going to bring you on in just a minute. I want to make sure everybody is on and we're good to go. Let's see. George is in the house. Who else? Tell me where you're from in the chat. I see people coming on. We're going to give it a few minutes so that nobody misses out. Virginia Beach, Fort Worth, Texas, Atlanta, Ackworth. Hi, Shayla. Tell us where you're from. Virginia. Okay, keep it coming, guys. I want to know where you're from. The cool thing about it is, you know, this is sponsored by South Atlanta RIA, but we have been doing so much virtually that no matter where you live, you don't have to be in Georgia to be able to take advantage and enjoy the features and the benefits of South Atlanta RIA. That's what's so cool. So we're going webinar-based virtual. So no matter where you are, you can just literally log on and get this good information, which is what I love. And I was just talking to Stacey about that yesterday. So South Atlanta RIA, let's start there. So South Atlanta RIA is a real estate investor association. And so what that is, I consider it like a club, right? Where real estate investors and vendors, you know, everybody from lenders to attorneys to real estate agents, what else? We got stagers, literally everything. I'm a list provider. Well, I wear a couple hats, but people from all these different connections to real estate, we meet up once a month and we basically talk about how we can help each other. Also, RIAs are great for real estate education. A lot of times people are really frustrated because they're like, I don't want to have to keep paying for classes or paying for coaches or paying for all of this stuff. Well, the RIA really is, at least our RIA is a safe space for you to come and be able to ask your questions at minimum once a month. You can ask things like, how do I get started? What are some lenders that I should be working with? What does staging mean? How do I get myself in position so that I can start getting money for my flips, for my transactions, whatever it is? It really is a safe space where education is first, right? And financial literacy is first. So that's the value. And so from those of you who know me from Instagram and stuff like that, that's the value of partnering or joining this type of organization. Because sometimes with a class or something like that, you may be limited, right? And so that's the main meeting. But on top of the main meeting, you also have the option of going to the subgroups, right? Like this is a subgroup. So you have the option of going to subgroups that have different topics. So like this particular group, the topic is creative financing. And so not only are we going to cover creative financing, but we're going to cover real estate marketing. You guys can pretty much ask me anything, whether it's something about services that I provide or services that I can connect you with through the RIA. Okay. But this is a subgroup. So that's our specific topic. And when we did meet in person, we were in Cobb County, right? So that's pretty cool too. So, oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm so happy you guys are attending. We got a big group today. Hey, you guys tell me how you heard about the webinar while I'm telling you guys more about the RIA. Okay, make sure you turn your volume up because most people are saying they can hear me fine. But if you cannot hear us, make sure you're connected to the Zoom audio on your computer and your volume is up. Okay. Uh-oh, the morning meetup is in here. Okay. Tell us how you heard about this webinar. Was it Instagram, YouTube, email, what else? Facebook. This is super important too, you guys, as marketers in real estate. You need to know what is working for you, right? Is it direct mail? Is it cold calling? Is it text messaging? And you need to be tracking that. So I always like to do that in my webinar because I need to know what's the best way to communicate with you guys. Okay, I see some Instagram people. Comment in the chat and tell me how you heard about this webinar. Are you a member of South Atlanta RIA? Okay, I see IG, South Atlanta RIA website. Very good. So what was I saying? So yeah, so these are the benefits. So not only, my heart's gonna drive me crazy, right? I'm gonna take it off in a second. But what was I going to say? So not only can you come to this group and you can learn about creative financing, but we have other groups like flipping mobile homes. If you want to learn just beginners real estate, if you want to learn wholesaling, rentals, you name it, right? There's 18 different groups and most of them are meeting virtually. There's a woman who specializes in tax lien. There's actually two. So they have groups. So basically, once you become a member of the RIA, you can go to all of those groups for free. And now you don't even have to leave the house, which makes it even better. So all of this education is packed into your membership in South Atlanta RIA. Okay. The last thing you heard about it today via email, was it an email from us, from Law Clerk on Demand? So the last thing I want to address for those of you coming on who may be new to this. So my name is Deanna Britt. I own Law Clerk on Demand. We are a vendor for South Atlanta RIA. We provide, okay, cool. We provide fresh information from the courthouse. So many of you guys may have connected with me via Instagram. I do a lot of teaching on probate, business law, business formation. I see the smiley faces in the chat. But, how do we find deals from the courthouse? And then another service we provide is business formation. So a common question that we get is like, should I wholesale my first deal without an LLC? There's no reason to even get stuck there, right? So you can hire us to get your business formed, your nonprofit formed. We have all those different services to basically give you on-demand legal, get everything that you need done, basically. Okay, so we'll talk more about that at the end. So at this time, I know that Chris is about to bring the house down, okay? So I met Chris I don't know, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, kind of virtually through social media and everything. And if you are active on social media, there's no way you're not going to know about his handle is Chris Monroe. STL, I believe, but he's going to correct me when he comes on. But he's always branded. He's always willing to give information, to teach. He's got one of the best YouTube channels for you to watch. He's really been on fire in the last couple of months during the pandemic. He has given us so much content. So he's interviewed, I've done an interview on his channel, but there's so many other people that you can literally just go on his channel and binge and get quality information. He's also a coach and a teacher. His specialty, not only is it, wholesaling, but he really has a specialty in these creative deals. And he's someone that I learned from. So he will be able to go over pretty much all of the different strategies that you guys saw on the flyer, he can really tell you real case studies, real things that he's done. So I'm going to give him the floor, but I really encourage you to tap in with him, visit his website where he can show you like all the different programs and stuff that he does. But what I really appreciate is when we talk about safe spaces to learn real estate, to ask questions, he definitely represents one of those spaces. So make sure you follow him, take a lot of notes during this session. Housekeeping wise, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box because we do have a pretty good crowd on the webinar right now. So make sure you put it in the Q&A box because if you put it in the chat, we will miss your question because people will comment and react. I encourage that in webinars. We don't want you just staring at the screen. So with that being said, you don't want your question mixed in with the, with the chat. So, okay, so put your questions in the Q&A box. If you don't know where that is, just put your mouse over the middle of the screen. You'll see the Q&A box. Just type your question in there and we will get to your question once Chris is done, okay? And it's up to him whether he wants to integrate it, but we typically do, Chris will speak, we'll talk a little bit about marketing, which I'm sure Chris has a lot to say about too, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. So even if we don't get to your question, I make sure we go through the Q&A box towards the end of the webinar. Okay, so I think that is everything. Chris, are you ready? Let me see, let me make sure you got, we are going to bring you on. Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you well. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you for coming on. I'm excited. I'm getting my pen and pad. I'm ready to listen and to learn. This is going to be awesome.
That's what I'm talking about. Greetings to the family. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon if you're on the East Coast. My name is Chris Monroe. Some may know me as the student master teacher, Mr. I Stay Woke. I'm a creative real estate investor based out of St. Louis, Missouri. I help and coach and train others to learn this real estate game as well. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, a little bit of creative real estate. Some of the stuff that actually has changed my life for the better, and it can actually change yours as long as you know what to do and when to do it. So as far as today, is there any specific thing you want me to start off with here?
Nope, you have the floor if you want to just share, some of your case studies. And we always assume that everyone's at a beginner level as far as the definitions of creative strategies. So you can just take it away, going into subject twos and lease options, that kind of stuff, how you navigate your deals.
Yeah, perfect. Do I have a capability to share my screen? I can even put it up on the
Yes.
screen here if it makes it easier for people. I know people like visual and they like to see things and, feel it. And so it makes it more real.
Yes, I'm people. I'm one of those people. Let me make sure I give you share capability.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, I can, put a few things up on the screen to give you some, examples and some words that you can possibly even screenshot if you need to. Well, they're gonna say screenshot. Oh, I get to hack it. Whatever you need to do to, learn this game because the basics.
Okay.
Are really.
Is it working for you now?
Let's see. I do have ability to share a screen. All right.
Okay, perfect. And just a reminder, guys, put your questions in Q&A box so that he can see them. I can see them when he's done in a few minutes. Okay. All right. You got it, Chris.
All right. Can you see my screen? It says creative real estate transactions. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, great. So it looks like it's up and running here. So basically, this is a basic overview to give the basic breakdowns of the different types of creative real estate transactions and the different types of ways to actually transfer property. I know a lot of buzzwords go across the internet and the interwebs in regards to subject to, lease options, contract for deed, all these different terms and things that you may see out here. And I want to kind of give a little overview of that before we get into anything too deep. All right, so here basically is what seller financing or owner financing. Many times you may come across a seller while you're out here marketing, or you're cold calling, or maybe somebody called you off your website, or however way you found somebody. They may own a house free and clear. Sometimes people say, oh yes, this is a free and clear house, I want to buy it subject to. That's impossible. You're not buying a house that's free and clear subject to, because there's nothing to buy subject to. It's free and clear. There is no loans. There are no mortgages or encumbrances on the property. So basically, seller financing is something, anytime a seller is allowing you to purchase it over time, meaning you're going to make monthly payments to them. You know, maybe it's 30 years, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 5 years, some length of time that you must negotiate and or come up with that's fair for you and the actual seller of the property. Regardless if it has debt or not, a seller financing deal, you need that seller to okay or give you the green light to say, yes, I'm willing to let you pay me over time for my property. And that's, you know, one of the main things we do just as a basic intake when we talk to sellers. We always ask them, would you consider taking a monthly payment until we pay you off in full? Real simple, real clean. And that's, like I said, that goes for any type of deal, whether it has debt or not, whether if it has liens or any encumbrances. If there is not a loan, we can create a promissory note and a deed of trust if you're in a deed of trust state, or you'll create a mortgage if you're in a mortgage state. I know we saw earlier a lot of people were from multiple places all over the United States. You need to know whether you're in a mortgage state or a deed of trust state. I'm in Missouri, so we're in deed of trust state. And that's something that the attorney creates. You shouldn't be creating this stuff. You just want to set it up for your closing attorney and or title company to close these transactions out. Any type of these creative transactions, we close 100% of them through a real estate attorney or the attorney that's at the title company. Nevertheless, we'll never just tabletop close one of these creative deals, because you don't want somebody to come back later on and say, hey, yeah, you tricked me, or you took my house, or you didn't disclose this, or you know, have some type of legal issue or legal ramifications. So that's why I say 100% of these types of deals or creative deals, we close through a real estate attorney. Moving on, subject to, the one that everybody loves to hate, hates to love. This is the one we all want to get. We want to buy a house subject to. We're buying it basically subject to the existing financing. That's all that really means. The loan is going to stay in the seller's name, and the deed, which is the ownership, is going to transfer to your name or your entity. Whether you're closing in an LLC, closing in a trust, closing in your personal name. Yeah, Chris Monroe owns the property. No, not me. But that's a whole nother thing. So regardless of how you're closing it, the deed and the loan are separate. A lot of people don't know that you can separate them. They think you got to pay that loan off when you buy the house. Simply not true. It's a myth. The deed is separate from the debt. So when you're buying a house subject to, the buyer gets the deed and the seller keeps the debt in their name. There's no qualifying, there's no applying, there's no pulling W-2s, tax returns, begging some bank to give me some money, please, bank, and let me buy this house. That's not what this is. That loan is going to stay in the seller's name. They already qualified. You're just going to take over those payments on the seller's behalf, or better way to say it is make those payments on the seller's behalf. You're not assuming the loan, because when you say assume the loan, that's the same thing. That means I'm going to go qualify, which we're not qualifying in this type of transaction. In fact, everything I'm talking about today, you do not need to qualify anything. You do not need to beg the bank. You don't need to go get debt in your name or any type of stuff. This is all working out a deal between you, the buyer, and them, the seller, or vice versa, depending on where you are in the transaction. There's no qualifying. Like I said, you're only morally responsible. You're not 100% legally responsible to pay that debt off, because you didn't make any claim that you were going to pay it off. You did make a commitment to that seller, which you want to honor that. It's only a moral thing. I agree to make those payments on your behalf. I agree to take care of this house. And you're going to take care of the house because it's your house. You have the deed to it. You're going to do the right thing when it comes to the house part. But as far as the actual transaction, it's no legal ramifications to say, I'm going to pay this debt off. The problem is with this, when you buy a house subject to, the seller has no recourse. In the event you as the buyer buy a house subject to, say a year goes by, 2 years go by, everything's going great, and Corona happened, or something happens in the marketplace, there's a shift like 2007, 2008, and for some reason you're not able to make that payment, that seller cannot do anything. They basically signed over the house to you. They have the debt in their name, but they don't own the property for all intents and purposes. So the debt is in their name, you have the house, they can't do anything to make you get up out of their house. So they're stuck. So it really leaves the seller in a bad situation. So typically I try not to buy majority of houses subject to. I try to buy them in another way, which I'll be going into on the next slide here. So in the red, as you see on the screen here, never sell your house subject to. Never. And for the reason I just said, you have no recourse in the event that buyer defaults or decides to stop making payments, or the Rona happen, or whatever happens in life. You can't do anything. You can beg them and say, hey, yeah, can I have my house back? But they don't have to do anything. You're stuck. You're stuck like Chuck. You don't want to be out here like that. You want to be out here doing some more woke stuff. So that's subject to in a nutshell. The next slide is going to be the wraparound. You may hear it called the wraparound mortgage, the wraparound deed of trust. You may hear it called multi-mortgage. It's called a couple of things, but it's the same thing. It's similar to a subject to. The only thing is there's another document added, a separate promissory note, and possibly a separate deed of trust that's going to be added as well to give that seller the right or the opportunity to foreclose on you in the event you don't act right. Because we don't know, like I say, we don't know what the future holds when it comes to the marketplace. So it's similar to a subject to. A new mortgage will be placed in second position, or a new deed of trust, whether if you're in a deed and trust state or in a mortgage state, it's going to be placed in second position after that original one that you have or that they may have with the bank. It's going to be placed in second position. So like I say, they can foreclose on you if you need to. It's good for properties with equity. Say you have a property, it's worth 100,000 and you're going to be buying it for 50,000. You know, it's $50,000 so-called in equity in there. You can set up a second note and a second document basically to help you with that, to help protect the equity in that deal for the seller. So this kind of helps it, you know, the further we go down this list here or these slides, it's going to become more and more even. We started off with just a plain seller financing, which is generally all of this stuff. And then we go into subject to, where it's really heavily favored into the buyer. And then you go into a wrap where it gives the seller some type of protection to, like I say, foreclose on you if you don't act right. And it helps them also if they need to qualify for a loan for another property. You may come across a lot of people that say, yeah, I need to sell this house so I can buy another house. Then you want to buy it on the wrap, because like I say, the real estate attorney is going to create another document that's basically going to show that they have some type of income coming in for this debt that's on their name, and it may wipe out their debt to income ratio or protect their debt to income, the DTI. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for everybody here, but basically it's a lot safer for the seller. The seller can foreclose if the buyer defaults, like I said. That's a wraparound mortgage, and that's what I would prefer to do versus doing a subject to in the event. So say I'm buying a house from a person that's, I don't know, maybe in their 30s or 40s. They're not that old. They may plan on buying another house later on. I might want to do it on a wraparound mortgage. Now, if I'm doing it in, say somebody's 90 years old, you know, they ain't going to be here too much longer. Yeah, subject to. Why not? Because they're not going to be here too much longer. They may be going to take that good old dirt nap eventually. So you want to go ahead and, you know, a subject to may not be a problem for that because they're up in age. They're not going to come back, and they're not buying another house, or they're not buying another car. They're not living life. So if you know somebody's going to be living life going forward, typically we want to buy it on a wrap, because like I say, it helps them to be able to qualify for loans in the future. It gives them some type of recourse, and all the other things that I've already stated. So that's a wraparound mortgage. Land contract, contract for deed. Depending on the state, they may be called different things, bond for deed and other things. So depending on your state, but it's basically a land contract. It's a written agreement to buy a house on terms. It has the price, the monthly payments, the length of time, and an interest percentage. Many times you can get it with 0% interest, unless you're in a state that says you have to have some type of interest, which I just found out some states require that. Like, what the heck? I have some deals where we do 0% interest, but you know, everything's about what you negotiate. It's just a written agreement. It breaks down everything in plain black and white. We agree to buy your house over 20 years for this month amount, for this much per month, for this length of time at this percentage rate. Basically, everything's simple. It's similar to when you buy a car. The deed will stay in the seller's name until it's paid off in full. So this is more balanced. So like I was saying, as we go on through these slides here, we're going to be, this is more even, because the deed stays over in the seller's name until it's transferred when everything's paid off in full. If you're buying, record it, because you want to have something on record to show that you are the owner of the house. So when you do a land contract for deed, basically you are the, if you sell this house this way, they own the house for all intents and purposes. However, you may retain that deed until they pay it off. But for all intents and purposes, tax write-off purposes and any other purposes, they own the house. When you sell it like this, it's sold. So like I say, if you're buying, you record it. If you're selling, I usually say not to record it if possible. Simply because if they default, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to foreclose on them or anything. You can basically rip up the original and they can move out and you can just sell it another way or do some type of other exit strategy. So never buy for more than the loan balance. You don't want to be buying them for more than what they owe on it, or, you know, because it's, you know, you don't want to have a house upside down, basically. That's basically what that is. And that's just it's an easy way. If you have any questions about any of these slides that I'm going on, make sure to put them in the Q&A box there. We'll definitely get to it. And I'll elaborate on something if I went over something kind of quick. Another way is the lease option, which is my favorite exit strategy. Not necessarily my favorite to buy a house this way, but my favorite exit strategy. You may hear of it. It's called a rent to own, rent to buy, lease to own, lease purchase, all synonymous. It's a lease option. You're leasing it with an option for the person to buy. Now you can buy a house this way or you can sell a house this way. But you know, you may hear people say sandwich lease options. That's what a lot of people do for these Airbnbs, VRBOs, and short-term leasing. You may hear a lot of people use this type of strategy. I'll lease your house or lease your condo or lease your apartment or lease whatever building or property you have with the right to sublet to somebody else. That's what they're doing a lot of times with this. It's basically a standard residential lease. I usually don't take any deposit when I do it. When I sell on a lease option, I don't want any deposits. I just have them do a separate option agreement, which gives me a non-refundable option fee or non-refundable option consideration. That's how it's written up on the paperwork. Two separate documents: a residential lease, like a regular lease you see everywhere your whole life, and then a separate document, just the option. You want to make sure those are separate because in the event you want to evict them or get them out of there for whatever reason, they're not acting right, they're not making payments, or they're not holding up their end of the bargain, you can simply evict them versus going through a whole foreclosure proceeding. A legal action, you want to go through all that. That's a lot of work. You want to just foreclose on them, get them out of there. Evict them, get them out of there versus going through a foreclosure. Like I say, this is my favorite exit strategy. I buy a lot of houses subject to, buy a lot of houses on wraps, and then I sell them preferably on a lease with an option to buy, because this is a weaker position for the buyer to be in. So if I'm selling it to them, like I said, I can get them out of there if they don't act right easier than I can on a foreclosure, going through a legal proceeding, 90 days and all of that type of stuff, 120 days. And you all may know, depending on your jurisdiction, where you're located in America, you know, there's different laws to as far as getting people out of houses. It's a lot easier to do an eviction than there is to do a foreclosure. You don't want to have, you know, months and months and months of bills piling up, things like that, where you're waiting for a way to try to get them out of your house so you can take possession of your property and make money on it. You know, you get a bad tenant or a bad person that's in a property, you want to be able to get them out of there in a timely manner and keep your cash flow rolling. You don't want it tied up for 6 months, talking about, oh, I got to go through a foreclosure proceeding, go hire a bunch of lawyers, fight this case, prove my case, go all this way, spend all this money. That's why I prefer to do this lease with an option to buy on an exit strategy. And then as far as wholesale, you can wholesale any of these deals. Any contract you put under contract, you can wholesale a cash or a terms deal. Everything we were talking about before now was mostly terms deals, but as far as wholesaling is concerned, if you put something under contract, you can assign that contract to some end buyer, whether that's a professional investor, whether that's somebody that's going to move into the property and live in it. You know, it doesn't matter. You can assign it to them. Cash in on assignment fees on deals you do not want to stay in. Say if you find a deal that's a pretty good deal on terms where you can buy for little or nothing down on one of these other strategies that I went over, it has low cash flow and you don't really want to stay in it. Like, oh, it's only 50 bucks cash flow. Is that cash flow? Not really. You know what I mean? It could be to some people. But if it's little or no cash flow, you can assign that deal to an end buyer, let them move into the property and just step into your shoes and do everything that you said that you were going to do, just like it was on a traditional wholesale cash deal. You can wholesale a subject to deal. You can wholesale a contract for deed. You can wholesale a any type of deal you come across, as long as it's not written on there, not assignable. Not assignable. If you have that on there, you definitely cannot assign it. But generally, I always have that on all of my paperwork, that this is, you know, me or my entity and or assigns or something similar to that effect. So we definitely want to have that on there. It's great for a person starting out because it virtually has no risk and it's pure paperwork. There's no costly entanglements. You're not doing any repairs, maintenance, fixing and flipping, managing contractors, any of that crazy stuff when it comes to real estate, because you know this rabbit hole goes deep. And these are some of the basic ways you can get into the real estate game, little to nothing down, no money down if you know how to structure it and you know how to set up a deal. It can possibly go from there. So hopefully that all gives you a kind of overview of the different types of instruments, different types of strategies that you can implement in this creative real estate space. And it all can go a lot deeper than this. So with that being said, are there any questions that we have so far? Any questions?
Yes, we have a ton in the Q&A box. I guess we can jump right in.
Bring them on.
All right. So we're going to come back to somebody asked about probate list. We're going to come back to that question during the marketing segment. Chris, are you cool with going over some marketing strategies after we're done answering these substantive questions? Okay, cool.
Sure.
Let's see. Best strategy script for pre-for. Okay. And establishing rapport with pre-foreclosures. So I think we can kind of tackle this right now. So let's say that you're bringing this strategy to someone who's on a pre-foreclosure list. Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, basically you just have to address the elephant in the room eventually. I would never open up the phone call or the conversation like, oh, I know you're in pre-foreclosure and I want to save you. I never go in with my cape on. I go on and just let them know that, hey, yeah, we're looking to buy houses. Are you looking to sell? If they are looking to sell, great. Let's have a conversation about that. You know they're in pre-foreclosure. You know, while you're asking them, I usually have a sheet here, something similar to this. Has about 50 questions or so on it. Basic, just conversational things that we ask people all the time. Like, you know, what's the situation with your house as far as condition? You know, are there any repairs that you're aware of? Have you made any updates within the last 5 years? How old is the roof? Have there been any foundation issues? Just basic information to know about the condition of the property. That's part one. Part two is going into their situation, more about, so yeah, so it sounds like a pretty decent house. What made you decide to want to sell it? Many times they come out and tell you right then and there, hey, yeah, the bank's about to take this house. I don't normally bring that up. I bring it up by asking questions and I allow them to open up to me. That's typically how I do it. That's the number one thing when it comes to building rapport. Ask good questions. Don't go in, I'm a know-it-all. I'm a real estate guru. I'm an expert. I know everything. I'm gonna say today, making all these promises. I never go into any deal that way. I go in as a professional question asker. Ask good questions, allow them to speak, have a regular conversation like a regular person. They see you're a regular person. And they'll tell you, you know, over time that, hey, yeah, I got these problems. You know, we haven't paid a mortgage payment in 6 months. The bank's sending these letters. And then you can start going into that pre-foreclosure thing at that point deeper. Like, oh, wow. So the bank said they're going to take it. Did they give you an auction date or anything so far? No, they haven't yet or whatever. So, wow. So what did they tell you you had to bring as far as a reinstatement amount? How much is it going to cost to reinstate the loan and bring it back current so that they do not take the house? So you have a reinstatement amount and you have a payoff amount to pay it off if you're going to cash it out and get the loan out of their name. But typically I try to keep that loan in their name, pay the 3, 4, 5 grand, whatever it is to catch the loan up, pay the closing costs, give them a little something, and then I take over the property from that point forward, where they're not just losing it, giving it away to the bank. But as far as building that rapport, ask good questions, zip it, let them tell you their problems, be a good listener, and be a good person. You know, I have many, many calls that I've done with sellers, buyers, and all between on my Instagram channel at Chris Monroe STL, where you can actually listen in, see how we